Hi, how are you?
Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about relationships. We kind of always talk about this sometimes, like in our private conversations, and we just thought that, we have something worth saying, and kind of wanted to record it this time. So we're just going to talk about relationships, our ideal of relationships, expectations, and what is it okay to have those expectations, like, what's considered like standard wise, or I guess standard wise, what's okay, is it standard? I guess what ideals are considered okay and not okay, and what we should have for ourselves personally, regardless of what society says. So with that being said, I have very little experience in relationships.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be drawing off of Kaylyn more this time, in as far as what relationships or how to define them.
I would say I only know that because things have not gone well. I don't have it from a healthy perspective, so I do need to say that as a disclaimer.
That's fair. You gotta have something to go off of. If you have a not so healthy one, you know what could be healthy because you know that's unhealthy.
Right.
So that's what we're
we'll get into it.
So that's what we're gonna talk about. So I guess to start, we can just talk about like what we like define a relationship as.
Cool. I want to go first. I think I had to pull it up because I had a really rough breakup of a relationship that lasted 2 years in 2019, and there's always like that trend of like, oh, you hop right into the next thing after that. And I thought I was doing well because I didn't hop into relationships after that, but I was still fucking with people. And that didn't really end until the pandemic of 2020. So it really forced me to spend more time thinking about why I would pursue those things, because if it wasn't something I wanted to pursue in the middle of a pandemic, then it clearly was not truly important. Not saying that I should have been flaunting the rules or whatever, but like, if I didn't give a fuck enough to want to do it, like, and have to resist the urge or whatever, then clearly it wasn't something I should have been doing. Anyway, the point was I had to write down a bunch of stuff that, like a bunch of concepts and quotes and blah blah blah, because I needed to think about it and I would forget if I didn't write it down. So the first thing that I wanted to say is that love is a verb, not a noun. It's an action word, and it has to be shown to be felt. So as far as like what a relationship looks like to me, or what I ideally picture when I think of one, it is on a surface level small stuff like holding hands. It's sometimes wearing coordinating outfits, or like kissing in public, not making out because that's inappropriate. Like, that's just selfish. It's not inappropriate per se, but that's really fucking selfish. Because you're enjoying yourself, but then people gotta listen to you smacking lips and shit. Like, that's kind of fucking rude.
Oh man.
No, listen, and it's fine. Most people, especially people who are genuinely like, if they're just good people, they're not necessarily gonna be irritated that you're doing it. They're gonna be like, oh, they're in love type shit or whatever. Like I remember being like that. listen, but they'll be like, they'll know what that feels like, or they'll empathize with it, and from that perspective they won't. But there's a ton of people out there who are just jealous and singing butthurt that they're single. That's what I was trying to say. So those people, if they see you doing that kind of stuff, they're just gonna get angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So
I want to clarify what I said. I will think, oh, they need to go get a room, but I'll still think it's cute and not just go on about my business, honestly.
I might yell, get a room. I'm not gonna pretend I'm like, oh, look at that. Oh, no, fuck you.
I'll be like, go get a room and keep walking, but
yeah. See, it's the people that say that and stare that are the real problem. Like, just stand there and wait for them to do something about it. No, they're gonna ignore you. Okay, anyway. And then love without learning is lust. So if you're not taking the time to get to know, and this can apply to friendships even, if you're not taking the time to get to know the person consistently, because you never really truly fully know somebody. So if you're not taking the time to learn that person consistently, then at least on my end, in my experiences, that means that you're more lustfully attracted to the person, even if it feels like love at the time. Because, again, I was in a relationship for 2 years. Things were really great. Of course, everybody talks about this, like, the puppy love phase or whatever. Things were really great for, like, 7 or so months. But then when real world shit started happening, it started to fall apart. Like, we both needed jobs. We were spending too much time together. I had never shared space with another person like that, for real. My only sibling's a boy, so all of our shit has been separate. And I'm also older than him, so again, I already had my own shit before he even existed, so they just were getting him his shit. Even my roommates in college and shit, they weren't there all the time, so I was not sharing my space with people, and I enjoyed that. I like hanging out with people. Listen, that's off topic, but yeah, that's super off topic, but that was the first time being with him that I'd ever actually shared space with someone on that level. And then it wasn't even just the two of us, it was us and his family. So that's like 3 other human beings that you're trying to get used to, and only one of them you actually kind of fuck with. So that was a huge chore. Neither of us were up to the task. We didn't learn that until later. And I eventually moved out, obviously, but like after 8 months. Shit was already falling apart at that point anyway. But the point was that after we started like getting into it and shit like that, it just kind of got harder to pay attention to like, why is he doing this, or does he wonder why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I feel like I was still doing that because that's part of my nature and that's part of why it's important to me, but that's not something that was at all in the slightest important to him, so it didn't happen, or at least it didn't continue to happen. I was actually thinking about this earlier. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm gonna ramble a lot, but I was actually thinking about this earlier. There was a point in the very beginning of our relationship where we were like, because we were both in houses where we couldn't really hang out with each other. We were kind of young, like, we just weren't adults, I'll say that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I couldn't go over his house, he couldn't come over mine, so we would be in the car taking naps with each other and stuff like that, like not doing anything inappropriate. Yeah, in the beginning. No, but yeah, we were just taking naps together and shit like that. And I remember feeling comfortable enough to like sleep on his chest, and he's not much bigger than me, so for me that's a huge leap. I'm just saying. But I remember doing shit like that and like hanging out, and it felt good. We would sleep together, like we like made a makeshift bed, and we would literally just take naps together and shit like that all the time. I like doing stuff like that. I feel like that's more real world, you know what I mean? I like to sleep, and I feel like you should want to sleep with me if you're gonna want to spend time with me, personally. Anyway.
Cuddling.
No, because I'm KO'd. You might get kicked in the face. You gotta be down for the ride. But yeah, so then we didn't do any of that kind of shit anymore towards the end of our relationship, because he didn't pay attention to that being something that I actually liked. And I remember when I actually broke up with him, I told him something like, we're just not compatible, like our love styles don't sync up. Because on a grand scheme of things, that's what's true. Like, on a human consciousness level, like on a huge grand scheme, that's the only issue. Then there's all the small problems of us just being people. So like, I didn't like that he would leave his towels on the floor, or he didn't like that I wouldn't do the dishes. But like, I fucking cooked. I don't think I'm supposed to do the dishes, but we never talked about that. You get what I'm getting at? So that's part of the problem.
Communication.
Yeah, and I didn't know what communication in relationships meant. So that's why it's bringing up my bullet points again. I think communication doesn't just mean speaking to each other all the time. It's saying the shit that makes you uncomfortable. And I feel like I've gotten a lot better at doing that with my friendship with Khairah. Because before, like when I was in high school and shit like that, I just was not the type of person to say like, you doing X, Y, and Z really gets under my skin, because a few times that I would do that, it wouldn't be received well. So I stopped doing it. But then I kind of had to, being in that relationship, so now I have those skills back. And I feel like they're better because I learned them as an adult this time. But taking that forward, I've been saying but a lot. Taking that forward, it's the idea that, I'm reading again, healthy love is something that is mutual between two people and no one gives themselves up to experience it. It's based on feeling within versus what's going on externally. So when you're not worried about, oh, we gotta pay rent, or who's gonna be buying groceries, or like, because at the time I was smoking heavily, who's gonna be buying weed and shit like that, blah blah blah. When you're not focused on that kind of stuff, it's so much easier to focus on being with the person because all your other needs are satisfied. Your needs are satisfied. You don't need them. You get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, and there was something that came to my mind when you were talking about learning how to communicate, and then learning that you didn't need to compromise yourself and what you want just because somebody else doesn't receive it well with communicating.
I wouldn't say I learned it like that. I learned that lesson a different way.
But I'm still saying that's like I don't know how you learned it, but I'm saying that's the end result of coming to the point where you're saying that you know that you need to communicate, and even though they didn't receive it well, you know that that's still like an important part. And it reminded me of this clip that I saw on Facebook. It makes me feel so old. On Facebook initially, where Eartha Kitt was making a comment about compromise. She was like, why is it that someone else is coming into my life and then I have to compromise? And like, you have to work together. Like, yes, there will be some type of compromises and things that go with stuff, but if you're coming to love me, why do I have to compromise?
Yeah, and it's not stupid shit like, because I hear people use the worst examples for that, which is part of why I didn't really know how to communicate. But it's not like you like Tostinos and I like Meyer brand, so we're gonna buy Meyer brand half the time and Tostinos the other half. You know what I'm saying? It's not that kind of shit. I don't know why, or like, I don't know where my interpretation of this came from, but I didn't realize until way afterward that me compromising the relationship was like, okay, well, I don't like when he does that, but maybe if I don't do this thing that irritates him, he won't do the thing that irritates me. You know what I'm saying? But without ever saying that out loud even, or like just assuming that that's what would happen. I made a lot of assumptions. And
realistically, what the quote-unquote compromise should have been was communication about, hey, look, I don't like when you do that, like it really gets under my skin, and then can we like figure out a way where we can come to an understanding that maybe you don't do this anymore, or you just don't do it around me,
or even you continue to do it and I just get the fuck over myself, because that's something else I had to learn. Like, you can't change people. If that's part of who he is as a person, I can't force him to pick the towel up. All I can do is step over it. That's not my job to pick it up. I can't make him pick it up. It's gonna stay there.
And there you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but go ahead, bullet points.
No, I think that leads into a good one. It's not me versus you. It should be us versus the problem. So a lot more people have been saying that recently, which I do think is a good thing. It's getting to the point where it's kind of like cliche to hear, but it was not that common, at least when I was growing up, to hear people say that. So like, if Khairah and I are in a relationship and she and I are arguing, if she loses, we both took an L. If I lose, we both took an L. The point is to come to some agreement, like she just said. The point is to be on the same page. It's not to win. And that's a huge ego battle. People have a huge problem with ego, but being someone that can acknowledge that, I feel like that's still healthy some of the time. Like, you're not going to step on me. I'm not just going to compromise with everything you have to say. And I'm also not going to squash my emotions just because it might make you uncomfortable. I might change the wording. I might not cuss at you because I know you don't like that. But you're still going to hear everything I'm upset about. You get what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And part of why my relationship didn't work was because I felt very comfortable doing that, and he would never. He would sit and stew on shit and then would wait until I was like, hey, I really don't like that. This is a literal example. I really don't like that you don't kiss me in front of your coworkers because you're flirting with some of them. I didn't say it like that, you know what I mean? Because I knew that's what was going on, but I'm like, I don't like that you're not being affectionate with me. Something about that needs to change. And then he would take that conversation to be like, okay, well, I didn't like when you and my cousin were making fun of me. Why didn't you say that in the moment? This was 2 weeks ago. I can't do shit about that now but apologize. But if you tell me that in the moment, that's when I actually have a chance to change my behavior, right? Yeah. So then why aren't you bringing it up? And that kind of shit would get under my skin, because and this is something I actually had a problem. This is why relationships is not titled romantic relationships. It's about all of them, really. In some of my friendships, if I feel like you're not correcting me, how am I supposed to grow as a person? How am I supposed to be better than you think I am if you're letting me be low? You know what I'm getting at? And then hold me accountable. Realistically, I lost a friend because of that last year. Just if I'm letting you hold me accountable also, I have to hold you accountable. Mutual. It has to be mutual.
And I can definitely say, like, with Kaylyn, that was something, because she said it earlier, that we learned to be better friends over the last year. I like to think that we were pretty good friends before, but we really learned how to do that over the last year, especially particularly with the pandemic. Like, there was times where we would sit on the car and just talk, and I would talk about stuff that bothered me, she would talk about stuff that bothered her. Literal or real world example, we sat and talked about why I felt uncomfortable with a third person that was possibly going to be our roommate, and she was like, well, why didn't you say something before? And so she was like, you know, if we're gonna be getting this apartment with all of us together, you have to be able to say, like, this makes you uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about it now. But the problem was is that I waited a little long for it. And I've definitely gotten better with it, because I would compromise myself a lot in situations like that and be like, oh, I'm overthinking it, I'm being too harsh, let me give them an extra chance, let me give them a chance to change, without ever saying something. And like she said, that's the problem. I mean, I did that when I was talking to this guy before, and I let this guy make me feel stupid because of, like, the way that he would respond to, like, messages. So because I'm kind of an old person in a young body, and so I misinterpret text messages and stuff all the time. And when there was one time I misinterpreted something that he said, and instead of being like, oh no, that's not what I meant, he kind of, like, ignored me after that, until I went back a couple times and reread it. I'm like, oh, that's because I have a real hard time if the punctuation is not used right. Then I have a hard time understanding what it means, because there's so many different ways it could go. Yeah. And so he would talk back to me as if I felt, like, degraded, kind of like a little kid, because he was also older than me. And so, not much older, I don't do that, but so he made me feel stupid, and I allowed myself to feel like that, because I was like, well, I'm overthinking it, and I was wrong, and blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't find my voice to say, hey, you can't talk to me like that. Realistically, he shouldn't have, period, no matter what my age was.
Hard stop.
And I am intelligent, so no.
You are, though, yeah.
But it took me having, like, friends like Kaylyn to talk about it and be like, I know that I interpret this wrong, and I felt so bad, but then she'd be like, but still, he shouldn't have said that to you, or said it like that. And then also talking to other guys after that. There's a friend that I'm texting now. I misinterpret text messages all the time, and at no point do I feel like I'm an idiot.
You're being belittled.
Yeah, so I don't know how I got on that, but
no, it's relevant still. And then that actually ties into the last 2 points that I have written down, at least for this main chunk of conversation. The next chunk of shit is very superficial. But love is about letting your partner go through their own experiences and not judge them, support them and understand them regardless of if it may have triggered a button within you. Then together you are open, can communicate and grow. You don't need each other, but simply work as a team to move through life. And redacted was no, because it's I don't see those anyway. Okay. Yeah, no, but he just was not in any way prepared to foster a healthy relationship. He was not gonna give you, like,
he wasn't mature enough for me.
No, come on now. And then number 2, we talked about this. I don't know if we actually. I be drifting through shit. My brain is not over here all the time. But I was just saying to somebody recently that I forgot as I was saying it. Oh, men are selfish. Yeah, like, long story short, men are selfish. And not in like a, oh, they're bad people, men are trash kind of way, but like in a, that's kind of how people raise them to be. So you should expect that kind of behavior, kind of way. And not to say that all men are going to be like that. And you should definitely value and appreciate the ones that aren't. Even just as a friend, if it's not going to be on some romantic shit. But if they're willing, because we were talking about, I'm not putting any particular, because I don't think I was talking to Khairah, but not putting any particular person's business out there. We were talking about if a guy would be comfortable taking someone's virginity or not. If he says no, that's too much work or some shit like that, what the fuck does that mean? It means that he's the type of piece of shit that doesn't give a fuck about other people. It means that his only desire for sex is selfish, it's lustful, it is entirely concerned about getting his nut off.
And I'm gonna cut in at this point and say I appreciate Kaylyn for trying to cover for me, but it's okay. It was about me. I have no problem putting it out there. I'm not ashamed of it. It is what it is. And it's basic because of an experience that I recently just had. I used to be kind of ashamed, a little, not really, but a little bit, with being 25 and being a virgin. And at the time, 24 or whatever age. Because it was a friend that I knew in high school, and he was actually one of my friends who told me that he wanted to be in a relationship with me well afterwards when I was in college, but I wasn't interested in him at that point. And then he ended up being in a relationship with one of our mutual friends. And once you get to that point, once you are with or in a relationship with my friend, that's a line that I can't cross.
That's friend code, yeah.
And so I was like, and they seem to be in love, and I'm like, well, obviously anything between me and you, no matter what you said was going to happen, would have never worked out because you're meant to be with this person, not me. So he kept pissing me off with that because he said that we would have been married. No, we would not. But when I was talking to them about it, and that was a couple years ago, so I was around 23 years old, I was like, yeah, I'm a virgin. I don't know if it's kind of weird for me to be at that age, to be there and blah, blah, blah. I haven't had this experience. I haven't done this before. And I'm like, I'm very comfortable with talking about sex. I just never had it. And so when he was talking about it, he was like, yeah, you might run into a problem with that, because he was like, I don't deal with virgins. I don't like doing that because it's just so much work, and you got to be super careful and blah blah, and worried about if they basically worried about if they were enjoying it. And I forgot about that part, and I kind of was like, oh, okay, but because I had no other experience other than the guy who made me feel like I was like shit, like right before then, the guy that I was like, oh, I guess this is what I'm gonna have to deal with. I hope I don't have to be a virgin for the rest of my life, because regardless, I'm never gonna step into a situation and not tell somebody that I'm a virgin, but I also don't want to be rejected in my face and feel even more low for being one.
Yeah, then you shouldn't.
I don't anymore. Well, I really didn't after that, because I talked to Kaylyn about it, and she was like, that's a piece of shit, basically, like, like what she just said.
Human being, yeah.
Because it is selfish. But then I'm talking to a guy who's been my friend for a very long time, and we're literally just on cool friendship terms, and he's like, yeah, I'll take it, that's fine, cool.
Yeah, man,
and I mean, surprised that I was one, but didn't like put me down for being one.
Because he respects your experiences, and that's what's important for fostering any kind of meaningful relationship you're gonna have with people. Because people will say friends with benefits and shit like that, and then forget the friend part. Well, you guys are supposed to care for each other. Listen, I would say, without putting anybody's business out there, because we don't need to put that on air. Yeah. But you guys are already doing it right. I told her that already, but I think that, again, it's important to be friends. Even people that I've had those kind of relationships with, because we were friends first and because our friendship was stronger than our sexual relationship, we are still friends.
Yeah, and that's what I hope to get out of it.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to get that shit out the way. That's a whole other episode, because that's exactly what I did. I was like, yeah, sure, let's fuck. No, I'm not gonna put that out there. My mom might listen in this far. She's not gonna listen to the whole thing, but maybe 20 minutes.
Well, we're kind of past 20 minutes now.
True. About 25. Well, we don't know what's going to get cut out. There's that.
That's
fair.
All
right. But yes, I just wanted to reiterate that in every relationship, it is important that you both are open and communicative of what's bothering you. Because even I'll read on like Reddit and shit like that, people are like, oh, I thought I was being open and so did they, and that led to a whole line of miscommunication. Because people do shit, myself included. This was something I had to catch myself doing repeatedly, because when my relationship was ended, there were plenty of my friends, because they're my friends and they're loyal to me, were like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong, you know, you're fine, blah, 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 blah. Like, plenty of people, my parents even were saying shit like that. But the fact of the matter is that I am still a flawed human being who had never been in a committed relationship for longer than 3 months. So I didn't know what the fuck I was doing at all. Of course I did shit wrong. So I have to acknowledge that if I'm going to move past it. And part of my problem was like, oh, you upset me about this, so I'm going to act this way. Never set the precedent for that kind of behavior at all. Because I don't think it's wrong to act like that. At some point, you want people to understand who you are. Because for me, I have to be honest. I don't want to be the type of person who's every single time I'm upset going to have to communicate something. Because sometimes I don't want to be the bigger person. I'm fucking angry. You know what I'm saying? But I also want you to understand that I'm angry, and that maybe you can say, instead of like, oh, you need to relax or what the fuck ever, you know what? We can talk about it later. Just shit like that. I'm still going to be mad, but I'm going to go mind my own business and be mad. Anyway, that wasn't the point. The point was...
No, but I still think that that's fair, because, like, that is still communication inside a relationship. It's like, you're talking about, okay, I understand, because I do this with you. Like, when you're upset, I'm like, okay, I feel like she's upset. You want to talk about it? No. Okay, well, she'll be ready to talk about it when she's ready, and I'll go on about my business. Mm-hmm. And then eventually we'll talk about it if it needs to be talked about. Mm-hmm. Or it come up at some point, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what you were mad about. Yeah, because blah, blah, blah. But that's how it's supposed to be. When we say communication, you don't have to be like, you pissed me off. Okay, let's sit and talk about it right now. I mean, we're human. That's never gonna
unrealistic,
happen.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm a nice person for the most part, and that even wouldn't happen with me. You pissed me off, I'm gonna like need a couple minutes, couple hours to sit by myself and overthink it a little bit, because I overthink everything, and then come and talk to you about it when I'm ready. Mm-hmm. Or when you're ready, you know.
And an even bigger part of that is apologizing, because I also was having issues doing that. And I can only speak from my perspective specifically, but I know that my household did not set the precedent for that kind of behavior. If I got into an argument with one of my parents, their idea is that, oh, well, I'm the adult, so either I'm right, or if I was wrong, I just have to smooth it over. There's no smoothing it over without apologizing in my head, because I grew up like that. So if I feel like, and Khairah can attest to this, because sometimes I just be on bullshit, but if I feel like I was wrong, I will apologize. Yeah. If we're arguing, even in the middle of the argument, because I brought this up at least twice, I don't know if we kept it in the episode, but a friend that I had last year, I felt like I truly was not wrong in that conversation, and I apologized for the miscommunication anyway, several times, because I still feel like, you know what, there had to have been something I didn't do correctly. What can I learn from this? I feel like maybe I could have communicated the points separately for that particular conversation, but I don't feel like I was wrong in anything that I said.
But still apologize for it, just in case.
To own up to my half of the disagreement. Because it makes me feel like a piece of shit personally. I can't speak to anybody else, but it makes me feel like a piece of shit if I'm like, oh man, I snapped on my mom because I was hungry. Maybe she doesn't know that. You know what I'm saying? And of course she does. She's my fucking mom. She's known me for 23 years. She knows what I act like. My friend from, she lives in Georgia right now. She just had her second baby. Yay! But even she knows that I tend to get super bitchy when I'm tired or when I'm very hungry. That doesn't excuse the behavior, you know what I'm saying? But I would prefer to say to somebody, you know what? I'm in a bad mood right now. I just need to eat. Give me a second. Or like, I'm tired as fuck. I need to go take a nap. And I'll say it exactly like that.
Yeah, she will.
But I still have to say that, and then I can go off and be bitchy. Because at that point, you've been warned.
at that point, I stay clear.
No, yeah, I was gonna say at that point, your responsibility is to do what you feel is right in that situation. If you choose to come bother me, you've already been warned. If you choose to come sit in my space, that's probably fine, because I'm not gonna say shit. I'm not gonna direct my anger at you, but I might snap like, this fucking game is fucking dumb as fuck or something like that. Yeah, because I'd be angry. But I'm not gonna throw shit. I'm not gonna take it out on other people, which is why I have to say something in the first place, because it'll come across like that if I don't say anything.
Yeah,
and that was something I had to learn. I had to learn how to communicate, what that actually meant, because my stupid ass, I thought that communicating, because again, I'm basically coming into this relationship fresh off of a high school mentality. I'm thinking communication in relationships is like talking on the phone every now and again, texting every day type shit, like just being in contact. I didn't know that it meant being honest. And even the first few people I had romantic, not literal situationships. The first people I had were situationships with, they were not any more mature than I was, regardless of what age they were, older than me, younger than me, whatever. Nobody was on the level to correct that kind of behavior in anybody else. I had to figure this out on my own. My ex still hasn't figured it out, and I know he hasn't. I'm not even saying that to be funny. Like, no shade.
It's the truth. That's why I laughed.
Yeah, man, he's just kind of selfish, and again, not in a way that's intending to be malicious or anything like that, but like, I used to ask him to take me out on dates and shit like that. Nothing complicated. Let's go get sushi. We're vegetarian, so it's $4. You know what I'm saying? For 6 rolls of sushi or whatever. It's not expensive. We don't have to be there long. It's fucking sushi. You pop the whole thing in your mouth. That's about, 2 minutes a piece? Yeah, we're not gonna be there long. We get in there and he no longer wants to just sit down and eat. So we go back to the house. No, listen, let me finish. He moves to California, goes out to eat with his roommate, and is like, oh, this wasn't that bad. I melted. I should have been more considerate, blah, blah, blah. I wish you would learn that when we were in a relationship. You're in fucking California now. That doesn't mean jack all.
No, but the thing is like what he did is he showed you exactly how he respected you, if that makes sense. You're worth respect, a lot of it.
No, I know that, but he's showing me his level of respect.
Right, yeah. Because what he showed is that, I'm willing to do this and learn this with my friends, but I was never willing to do it with you for the 2 years that we were there. This is a few months of me being out there, and then I decided, and then I decided that I can do that. That's completely different, because you was fucking me.
Right. And this nigga's not sucking your dick. Come the fuck on.
So, like, that was actually something that I had to learn because that was something that he did to me. And as cliche as it sounds, it was me constantly listening to the Steve Harvey Morning Show when I was on my way to work, because my mom was dropping me off. And every time they were doing like the strawberry letter, and it seemed like every time that I was questioning about something about this person when I was talking to them, there was a letter that referred directly to it, and I chose to ignore it. Because I was like, no, yeah, that makes sense, but no, that can't apply to me. Because no, I'm not clingy, and I know that he has to work, and I'm being considerate of that, and blah blah blah. I have a friend that I literally just a friend that I text now, who will still text me while they're working and be like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm out of work, and then will text me afterwards like, oh yeah, I'm completely done now. This guy that I was supposed to be in a relationship with wasn't even doing that, and stood me up to say, oh yeah, I got called into work, so you're not making time to be with me. You keep saying you want to take me out, and you told me that, oh yeah, I'm gonna take you out, I just want to make sure money is right. I specifically told you, hey, as long as we're hanging out and having fun, I'm cool with that. We don't even have to spend a lot of money, because I'm not that type of person, period. Like, I'm actually really uncomfortable with people spending money on me. So
bookmarking that.
So I was like, as long as we're hanging out and having fun, it's cool. You didn't take the bait with that. You decided to ignore it. And then literally possibly like the next week later, or the next week, you're telling me that you're hanging out with your coworkers at a bar after work. And I'm like, but you're sitting here texting me a person that you still haven't taken out yet. And although I was pissed in that moment, I didn't say anything, which was a problem because I should have. And then I kept letting it repeat itself constantly. And literally this happened over the course of 6 months. That should not have happened.
But again, it's hard to learn that shit. Or I don't know, not again, but like, it's hard to learn that shit when you haven't been through it yourself. Because you can see other people do it and it can make perfect sense. There's plenty of jokes on the internet about coaching from the sidelines type shit, you know what I mean, where like people who aren't in relationships get better advice. Because like Khairah's even said this to me, it's easier to be subjective when you're looking at it from a different perspective. And sometimes she said that.
I did?
Yep.
Damn.
Right.
I got words.
I keep telling y'all she's sharp. But the same thing applies to looking back on your own situation from a past perspective. Because when you're in it, you're only seeing it from being in it. It's very hard to step outside of it. Yeah. Especially like people, you can meditate and get to that point. I'm assuming. I've never done it. I don't have the patience.
I mean, here's the thing is like, you're always on it. The outside looking in is always easy, and but when you're in it, you, like you said, you don't have any other view. You don't know how to be objective, and then you have all of these other insecurities that's like in the back of your mind that's been eating at you, and then you let them actually come in. Like when you're on the outside looking in, it's not your situation to harp on yourself about, because you don't have the self-conscious or insecurities that the other person is having in their mind eating at them. You don't have that eating at your brain for them. You're like, oh no, that, don't even worry about that. This is what's going on. Like with yourself, you're like, I got this person in my ear saying that I'm getting too old and I need to be working on getting married now. I have a younger sibling who's telling me I'm getting old and when am I going to get married. I have this person telling me that I'm never going to have kids, which is something that I specifically want to have eventually further down the line.
Lots of kids.
Maybe not lots, but want to have that. And then you have a person that's telling you, well, you're running out of time. And so then it's like, or then you have another person who's saying, well, you've never been in a relationship before, so you don't know what that's like. So then I'm allowing this stuff to happen because I don't know what a relationship is supposed to have, when realistically I do. And then I also have him saying, well, you'll never know if you don't give it a try, and you've always been too stubborn or too picky. So then every time that something was going on that bothered me, I was like, I'm being too picky, and I let it keep going. And that was the problem.
Yeah, and just because Khairah and I've talked to each other about that kind of stuff a lot, it was super easy for me to be like, well, fuck them, what do you want? And then number two, clearly it's not him. You know what I mean? And she's done the same for me. I was going through my own head, like, why did I do X, Y, and Z? Or like, I feel bad that I did X, Y, and Z or whatever. And she's like, well, no, think about the big picture, step back for a minute, this and this just happened, so of course you did this. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. And that made it easier for me to even see, like, I'm in that cliche phase where, like, I don't particularly want to be with anybody, and not even like on some I'm so confident within myself type shit that nobody is on my level or whatever. I'm just genuinely uninterested. I feel like there's nothing anyone can offer me. I feel like I'm not prepared to offer anything to anybody else. And to be perfectly honest with you, everybody else gets on my fucking nerves to some extent. Now, on an astrological level, that could be because this is my like fucking Saturn return or some shit like that. And it's in Aquarius for those of you who give a fuck about any of that. But I really don't care to be in that kind of situation where I feel like, oh man, now I gotta really spend time learning this other person. I don't care. I really wish I did. I don't have it in me to give you my full attention. I'm sorry, yeah.
No, you're fine. And that brought up another thing that I remember a lot of times with people, or in my situation that I had, it was, oh, I don't want to worry about having to learn somebody else, so I have to make this work. But it took my oldest brother telling me that, one, I deserved more. Two, I was a queen and deserved more. Because he says that all the time. You're a queen, they're below you. You don't need to worry about that type of stuff. So it's good to have that type of support. But then also him telling me, like, I told him the situation. He was like, of course he didn't like it because he's my brother and he's protective and stuff like that. But he was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. He's also a Leo like Kaylyn.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm gonna tell you the situation from a guy's perspective. I know exactly what this is. This guy already has a girlfriend. He's using you as a backup plan, as a side chick for just in case. You are not a side chick. You are never worth that. Or I'm worth more. So I should not. I'm not.
Don't settle for that.
Mm-hmm. And so you need to let it go. And I was like, okay. Okay. And then when it came to a situation where he ghosted me a couple times. And when it came to a situation where I had to stop responding to him and his text messages, I felt really, really bad. And so I talked to my brother about it. And I was like, I feel so bad because I didn't respond. Because he texted me from another number that I didn't know was his number. Or like, how you get friends to text somebody or whatever. And I didn't know that it was him until after he made a response that was like, I thought it was a wrong number, and I was like, hey, sorry, you got the wrong number. I, text back that all the time. Mm-hmm. And they was like, oh, I see how it is. And instantly I knew it was him. And so I felt so bad, like so bad as a person. And I talked to my brother. He was like, you have nothing to be sorry about. You need to stop.
Come the fuck on, right.
So even in having personal relationships, or romantic relationships, even just friendships, it takes having a good support system around that to help you like revalidate yourself and just validate yourself in a lot of the situations that you're having. So like the situation that Kaylyn talked about with the other friend, where she apologized even though she knew that she wasn't wrong in a situation. She even talked to me about the concern because I was partially a part of it. Yeah. And we both supported each other in what was going on in that specific situation. I was an outsider looking at it. I was like, hey, I understand both parts of where it was coming from. She was still wrong. Even with understanding both parts, she was still wrong in this particular situation. And so, but it took having that and her to be like, okay, I am comfortable enough with knowing that I was not wrong in the situation that I can be the bigger person and apologize, even though I know I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like that. We're gonna cap this part off because I do briefly want to get into some more shallow aspects of relationships because I feel like that was all good, deep content. Yeah. So, brief pause. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So, we had a brief pause. I wanted to talk about more of the shallow stuff in relationships, but also we kind of needed to talk about like Khairah's idea of a relationship is a little bit more idealized than mine, just because I've been through a lot of dumb shit with a lot of dumb people, and she hasn't quite had those experiences. So she's laughing at me, bro. I'm dead ass. No, listen. There's nothing. Okay. In reality, these people are not bad people. They're just dumb decisions for me to make based off of the standards I have for myself.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. I have high standards, and I could have not lived up to theirs, but that means I wasn't living up to my own either, which is partially true. You had it backwards. You didn't need to live down to theirs because you are above their standard. No, I was not living to my own standards.
That's fair.
Yeah, at all, in the slightest. And I still am not, which is part of why I don't think I'm ready for a relationship. But
that's fair.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I also don't think that I'm ready for a relationship. I can honestly say, and I said it to Kaylyn yesterday. Was it yesterday? One of these
Probably,
days.
Yeah.
That I kind of do have a fear of relationships. I didn't realize that until I started panicking because of something that somebody said. But I do kind of fear it a little bit, and it's partially because of like the unknown, because I've never been in it. And I've seen too many bad relationships that kind of makes me a little weary, and I don't want to go down that negative like path. So that has me a little weary of it. But if it happens, it happens, and that's cool. Like, like a good one is what I mean. But ideally, with what Kaylyn was saying, she said that she likes PDA as far as holding hands and stuff like that. Now I wouldn't mind like kissing, not the heavy deep kissing or anything like that. Right. But as far as holding hands, I don't think I would like that. That just feel and looks kind of awkward to me. It'll be different maybe once I'm in a relationship, that I will feel a little bit different about that. But I wouldn't mind them like, you know, holding on to my waist or something like that while we're walking or something. Or like a hug or something like that. But like holding hands, I'm not sure.
And I think that's interesting, because that goes down to like, even though you and I are similar people, we still have very different, like, I'm gonna say love languages there. Like physical touch is not that high up on mine, but at the same time, I'm gonna blame it on being a Leo. I can be possessive, so without being like all on your dick or whatever, I want to let people know that you're my person. So let's hold hands. Or when we're sitting down, I'm probably gonna put my leg over yours. That, you know.
See, I wouldn't mind that. I most likely would do that because I am somewhat touchy-feely, especially like if I'm laying down or something. I do like cuddling, so I would definitely, and I have thighs, so I would like to put my thigh across something when we're laying down or if we're sitting down. But like if we're like out walking somewhere or something like that, I would be completely, as far as I think, content with like being in your space, walking in the same space, so not one leading the other or anything like that, but walking together. And then
maybe, I don't want to be led. I'm not a dog or a child, but no. I'm joking.
No. Well, I'm not implying, and I don't mean to imply that holding hands would insinuate that. I'm just talking about when you're walking together. Some people, when they walk together, somebody is lagging behind sometimes. And I don't mean it in that way. I mean just being in each other's space.
I gotta find somebody that walks slow, because my legs are short, and I don't be feeling like walking that fast.
You walk faster now.
I don't think so. I think you've been subconsciously slowing down.
Really?
Yeah.
I walk really fast. Just side note.
And I will let her. I will just keep an eye on her so I know where she's going. I'm gonna go at exactly whatever pace I feel like.
It's funny because a lot of people used to say that about me, like in college and stuff, and they'd be like, "Where are you going? You just walk too fast." And I don't know. If I'm going somewhere, I'm going somewhere. And I have long legs, so that may also attribute to me walking fast. But that's completely besides the point.
Kind of. I feel like my general point for that is you gotta find people that are in sync with you. But see how I turned it? Yeah. But yeah, and then I think because we kind of wanted to talk about if it was like selfish or not to want a guy with money, but I think more of our like ideas of a relationship are more based on genuine compatibility. So I don't think I mean okay, I think it's possible to like if you consider that a standard for yourself, then that's not necessarily like gold digging, you know what I'm saying? Because you're like, especially if you're saying something like, I want someone that makes as much money as me, or if it's coming from like a familial perspective where like, I'm gonna be the one spending most of the time doing child stuff, specifically carrying the child and not being able to work for a certain amount of time or whatever, then he should shoulder some of the burden of providing for the child or whatever. And I'm not saying, because guys get so wrapped up in like, but men are supposed to be providers and blah blah blah. Yes, but then you guys completely forget that emotional support is a thing that's necessary too. You're all focused on financial provide emotionally. All right, I had to throw that out there.
And I think that a lot of people, specifically talking about the money thing, put a negative connotation with it that makes it feel like it's gold digging, because not all women are out here trying to be like, okay, let me see who I can open my legs for next to get me pregnant to have this rich person baby so I can be set for life.
Let me fuck this nigga for a Birkin bag or some shit like
that. It's not like that. Sometimes it's just like security. You attract what you are. And so for me personally, I know that I'm not where I want to be right now to attract exactly what I want. So I don't necessarily want a relationship right now for that specific reason. But specifically talking about money, I do want somebody who has money. because I don't want to have to deal with money problems. I've dealt with it for way too long. And it's not that I need somebody I would like somebody who's rich, but I don't need somebody who's like filthy rich so I can just sit and drink wine and lay up all day. I'm not that type of person, will never be that type of person. I have to do some type of work. But to be secure in the fact that, if we have some shit like 2020 that happened, I know that I don't have to worry about the bills being paid because we're set. We'll just have to figure out something else to do. Or, hey, I lost my job because these people are being assholes. I've gotten fired before. So I don't have to worry about how hard it is to find another job because I know that we're going to be okay.
Financial stability. That's a whole different.
I don't think we know how to define it correctly, and so then we say gold digging when it's really just we want stability.
And I think that's what people seek relationships, because people, it's even a whole like phrase, settle down or something like that. You can't settle down without being stable. Like, you'll watch like animals and shit circle on something. If they wobble even a little bit, they're gonna keep going until they find the sweet spot. Nobody wants to be shaky.
What is it called? Natural selection. Natural selection of like the good things that keep you stable. Like, it's survival of the fittest type of thing. We're in natural selection.
My understanding of natural selection does not lend to that analogy.
Anyway,
this is something I actually wanted to talk about and I completely forgot. In that relationship that I was in, there was several times where my anxieties and like I have panic attacks every so often. Shit like that was becoming more prevalent, or at least more like threatening to my mental health, because I could not trust that he would take care of me if those things happened. So even though I'm in a relationship with this person, I'm giving him the deepest forms of intimacy that I have available to me at that time, and I'm like envisioning the long haul. I can't trust this person to take me to the hospital if I really feel like shit, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, like, I don't think there's anything at all especially because then on top of that, we're gonna pay the hospital bill, you know what I mean? So I don't think there's anything wrong with, number one, having someone that you know can take care of you on like a personal level, but then also on a societal, like you said, a societal level.
So it's not as superficial as people make it out to be, because I just hate that they put that connotation on women. Oh, you want a guy who got money, you a gold digger, huh? No, I don't want to be dealing with bullshit. I don't want to deal with someone who is not at my level, at least. So why would I go beneath that?
Come on now.
And why shouldn't I reach for something higher? I'm not saying that you have to have, turn down a guy because there's one guy who has $1 million and there's somebody who's got $1 billion sitting, next to him. Oh, he got more money. Let me go talk to him. No, it's not going to be like that. Yeah. It's more so, I think you're cute and you can provide and you have a good mind.
And we get along. Yeah.
So
the vibe is right.
That's what I am. What else did you have, like?
I have a bunch of because at one point Khairah and I don't know why, but I got on this kick where I was like, I need to plan out every detail of my wedding.
She still hasn't planned out mine yet.
No, because I don't know, I don't know what possessed me in the first place. When I was younger, I never thought I was going to get married. I literally gave that absolutely no thought. I'm not in a relationship with nobody. I don't even like nobody. And it took me 2 weeks to really go through everything. I decided I'm getting married at Disney, by the way. So I'm going to need you guys to hurry up and watch this podcast. I don't know. But no, just, I don't know what came over me, but I really felt the need to do that. And then around the same time, we were like, let's write down all the traits that we want from someone. And I didn't pull that up on my computer because I think we can make that a whole other episode, because that's a lot of stuff. But one of the things that, one of the categories, it had to be shallow stuff. What does he look like? You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So that's what I have pulled up because we had to talk about shallow shit. Anyway, so I was like, this is all I have a document called Love as a Goal. So if within that, things that are requirements are not requirements but are good things to look for. When you sleep better next to this person, when you're not afraid to admit your own failings, when outside problems don't keep you down or don't get you down too far. So when I was with We worked at Detroit versus Everybody, and I was working a lot more than he was. So there were points when I would be like upset about, okay, that's irrelevant. That's not what I meant to say. There were points where I would be at work, and then they would be like, oh, well, we actually need to cut down your shift, so you're going to be earning less this week or something like that. So then I would my whole mood would plummet because of that. And there's absolutely nothing he could do to bring that back up because we weren't compatible. Like, realistically, we should not have been together. So certain things didn't work the way they were supposed to, unless we were smoking, and that's not a good thing. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, let go of stressing about uncontrollable elements. I feel like that's the same thing. Your stress level drops. His voice feels comforting. You can tell him when he's not being calming to you. The problems with your relationship are not about the nature of the relationship itself. That's something, okay, we're actually going to talk about that next time we talk about relationships, because I have a whole chunk of codependency that I had to learn through. Anyway, vacations are incredible. That's good. And then want him instead of your mom when you're sick. So, like, you know how when some people instinctively, yes, when they get sick, they're like, oh, I need to call my mom, blah, 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 because your mom helps you feel better. That's what you grew up with. When you want your person instead, I feel like that's a good indicator of some, and not like on a, oh, it can't be anybody else but them, but like when you just in the back of your brain are like, oh man, I want them to rub my forehead or some shit like that.
Or like, oh, let me call him because he need to give me this so I can feel better. Mm-hmm. Or can I call him to make me a hot toddy? You know?
Yeah, shit like that. Like someone that you trust to take care of you. Yeah. All my shit ties back. I'm glad it's wrapping around today. I'm usually horribly off topic. At least I think so.
No.
Yeah. And then I also, I don't know if I read this one, but I need somebody that's tall. I don't particularly know what that's about, but
so do I.
I like tall people. And
I'm kind of tall myself, and no, she's not.
I'm very short. I'm 5'2".
I am like slightly above average height. I'm 5'7". So there was a lot of guys, especially like in my high school and stuff, that were literally my height or around my height, and then a lot of them were really skinny, and I'm small, but I'm not that small of a person. So I want to feel surrounded and protected. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to feel, yeah. I want to be able to feel little, and I really didn't get that from a lot of people. Like, your presence also has to be big too. Yeah. Because some people, like, for example, my grandfather was really short. But his wife, my grandmother, was tall. My grandmother was 5'8". My grandfather was 5'4". But he was just that big of a person in like his personality that she knew that she was protected. He also had a thicker build too, so he wasn't fat. No, but he was a big guy. So I like that particularly because I like guys who are kind of my height or a little bit shorter than me. But I prefer taller because I want to feel protected. I haven't been able to feel like that in a while, so tall is my thing.
Yeah, man. One of the people that I got a little too attached to in the last year or so, they're not like, if you were to just look at them from a distance and you're not close enough to feel their energy or whatever, they don't look like shit for real, but they have such a powerful presence that even like, because we be in the car and he drives like he wants an adrenaline rush. Like, that is the wildest shit ever. But because I was paying attention to him, I could tell he was paying attention to the road. You know what I mean? So like, I didn't feel at danger at all. He's doing like the most riskiest shit, cutting through, bobbing and weaving like real close to other people's cars and shit like that. But it takes a certain level of tactical ability and awareness to be able to do shit like that and pull it off and not fucking die like a dumbass. So, but in being around that, I could feel your awareness. I could feel your like confidence. You know what I'm saying? That kind of shit. So yeah, I like that we're on the same page about that one. Yeah. Yeah. And then I don't necessarily prefer people that are muscular or whatever. I just prefer that he not be skinnier than me because I'm kind of thick for a short person. I'm not gonna make big. I'm shaped like a lawn gnome.
Oh my God! I wasn't gonna say
Listen, I wasn't gonna, but then you tried to say that I'm thick.
No, she is thick.
Nah, I have like a little peach booty. It's not a cake, but it's a peach.
Stop.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to give myself some points. It's like a little cupcake, but it's not flat. No, but my stomach. I'm unhappy with the weight that I'm currently at. I feel like I'm cylindrical around my torso, and that's fine. I could do something about that. I've been saying I want to, and just haven't. But that's so off topic. Point was, I don't want somebody skinnier than me. I'm already short. Like, you can't be, you know what I mean? I feel like we talked about this too. I feel like I'd break you by accident.
And that's what I feel like. I know realistically I wouldn't break you, but like that was like my biggest thing. Like there was other guys that kind of had crushes on me or whatever in the past. And my issue, like, although they were tall, that was nice, but they were so skinny. And like I said, I'm not super big, but I'm not super small either. Like, I have some stuff.
She's like triple C thick. Dead ass.
Oh my god.
Shameless plug her Instagram. But come on. I'm not gonna be on here talking about how fat your ass is. I'm just gonna say that your ass is fat. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I'm absolutely gonna mention it. I'm just not gonna go on.
That's why my friend likes it right now. But anyway, so that was yeah. Anyway,
shameless plug that ass. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
But I'm not super skinny, and I don't want to feel like I can break you. If I can look at you and can tell that I can't even fit half a thigh in one of your pant legs, come on now. Like, you can wear everything I got and I can't wear nothing of yours.
And you be bagging your shit, bro. That'd be like the early 2000s trend. Because she wears a lot of big shirts. But yeah. So they'd be wearing her shirts and it looked like the early 2000s when niggas look like, the fucking Kanye Lil Pump song, I Love It, where they were just shaped like boxes.
Yeah.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
I know you did. She tried to play it off. You don't have to know along. Hold on.
I just do want to acknowledge that I know the song. I just never seen a video.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I'm very surprised. No, all right.
Anyway, yeah, I don't want to feel like I can break you. And I want to, like, I know that because I have some extra stuff going on in the back, that realistically, sometimes I won't be able to fit, my guy's pants or whatever, but at least you'll be able to fit your sweatpants, because I'm gonna steal something, and a shirt. So I prefer a thicker build guy. Like, yeah, you gotta be like, you don't have to be cut. You don't have to be like 6-pack and stuff like that. I don't need all that. But don't be a stick either. Yeah.
And then I have my own personal issues about the opposite direction, but we're not going to talk about that today because that's the opposite end of the spectrum from skinny.
Oh.
We're not going to get into that today. I like a good, towards the opposite end, mind you. Like, if I were a gay man, they would be called a bear.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind bears. But you got to be somewhere, it's like somewhere in the middle between bear and like the middle point. Like,
the middle point is like, I think, muscular or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Because I definitely don't want overly muscular, because I think it's extremely unattractive when you build
with the overdeveloped traps. Yeah.
Oh my god, that is because you've taken away your shoulders at that point. Like, what am I supposed to hold on to? It's just gonna slide off the slope. This like
ew. And then I don't like, because I massage people, so I touch people pretty often. I felt a lot of different body types. I don't like solid muscles. Like, if you're not flexing, I don't feel like your shit should be rock hard, because then your body's unyielding. And I can't do it.
I like when you're able to see the muscle move. Like,
when you can watch it flex.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
I was going to say harden, but that sounds so gross. Yeah.
I like when you're like, you know that there's a hint of muscle there, it's not quite showing, but then when they do something, it's like, oh, that's nice.
That's why back in like the early 2010s, people were super obsessed with this picture of a guy who like had his hands on top of the door frame, because you can see the casual flex. Like, girls like dumb shit like that. It's not, I mean, it shows.
We're not overly complicated.
Come on now, it's just flex a little bit. Khairah getting striptease videos now.
Don't do that. I hope you don't
I'll cut that part out.
No, you don't have to.
Okay,
I don't think he's gonna listen.
Especially not 50 minutes in, but we're probably about an hour at this point. But we're gonna cap this one at an hour and a half.
But the striptease was it did show what we were talking about, like with being like muscular but not over.
Oh yeah. Because he wasn't even like hard flexing where like, you know, you gotta put effort into it. He's just casually clenching his stomach a little bit. You know what I mean? A little bit of flexing the arms.
Didn't mind that.
Not that I saw anything. If he does watch it, just throwing that out there.
No,
not that I
gave a lot of good descriptions.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you specifically wanted to throw on the table as far as relationships part 1?
I think we pretty much got it cut right here. I think we had a pretty decent talk as far as the initial part. I think we will still revisit like more of what we want out of in a relationship, out of just physically what a guy looks like, because that stuff changes over time. Yeah, like I used to not like being touched at all, but then doing massage, when I was getting them every week, I got so used to it now that like I feel weird not being touched that often, or like forehead kisses, bomb.com now. Yeah. And I mean, I don't have much experience in anything, but I've learned just like with texting and stuff like that I appreciate more consistency in text messages, like more consistency in your communication with me. Yeah. And the fact that and honesty, because I definitely haven't had that with guys that I've talked to before. And for me to be talking to a friend and the friend be more honest with me than a guy that I was supposed to be in a relationship was, like, you know, setting boundaries, even if it's like, hey, I'm just doing this to have a fuck. Okay, cool, I'm down with that. Yeah, and like give people the option, because part of what I brought this up in the first chunk of the episode, but part of why one of the situations I was in last year irritated me, or did I bring that up? When we first started dealing with each other, I had just got out of a relationship. I'm not trying to date you. I do want to be affectionate. Like, I like forehead kisses. Please do that. Or like, I had somebody tell me that hickeys are like girlfriend shit. No, they're not. Give me a hickey. But please, anyway. But just shit like that. Like, I expect that on top of having a sexual relationship with you. Or like, can I come over and play video games and shit like that? And he agreed to that. And I'm like, so then what's off the table for you as far as like what are the terms? And he's like, oh, we'll deal with that when we get there. We'll deal with that when we get there. And he just kept saying that. And then he got a girlfriend. And he kept inviting me around her. That's where you have to set boundaries. Like, even with the friend with benefits that I got right now, almost benefits, that I got right now. Striptease. With having that, it's like, okay, we start from the beginning. Hey, I don't know what you want, but I'm not trying to lead nobody on, blah, blah, blah. We agreed to talk about it. We actually did have to revisit it at a certain point because, like, want to make sure that nobody's wires are getting crossed. I don't know what to expect because I've obviously never had this type of situation before. I like it, but I've never had it before, so I want to make sure that I'm doing stuff right. Yeah. But, like, just even being honest about that, and me having to be honest, like I said before, about being a virgin and stuff like that, having that talk, because I was like, I have to give you the option to decide that you don't want to fuck me at this point because I'm a virgin. Yeah. There are assholes that don't like virgins. I don't see why, but that don't. Or it makes them like nervous or scared or whatever it may be. That's not the case in this case, but I had to at least give him that option. And there are plenty of people also, because part of the reason why I at least have noticed why people don't choose to be honest and upfront is because they're afraid that you won't give them what they want from you, which, if they don't want to give it, then you shouldn't be bothered with them in the first place. Come the fuck on, man. Like, I remember having a conversation with, this is going to be a long ass episode. I remember having a conversation with one of the mutual friends my ex and I had, because he wanted to sleep with somebody, blah, 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 but he also wanted to he wanted to keep the girl he was dating, but he didn't want to date her. And I was like, then break up with her and just go fuck other people. Like, if you're honest about your intentions, there's always some sort of karmic reward for that. Because, at least, again, just from watching people watching what I've done, my own behavior, and watching the people that I interact with, there's always someone willing to take that spot. It's not like you're gonna have to really search for pussy, bro. Like, to be honest with you, niggas will throw it at you if you say that's what you want. Even if you're ugly. Some bitches don't care. You know what I'm saying?
because that's what they want. And if that's what you want, you go find those people. You don't go after so-and-so because they look the best or because they got a good personality or whatever, but you don't want what they want, so now you're going to take advantage of them. That's fucked up.
Yeah. And my thing is, like, be honest and be fair with what you want in the beginning. It's like, with the whole virgin thing, it was like, okay, well, here's where I have to be honest, because I can't keep, like, going on, like, having fun in these text messages and then not be honest about, like, take it too far and then this not something that you want to be bothered with. I gotta be like, hey, this is what you gotta deal with. You give me a decision on if you want to be bothered with it, and then at that point, if you don't, then you don't. It's cool. I can't try to trick you because I want to keep up this friendship or whatever, and because I want to get this out of it. That's not fair to you, because I'm taking away your choice.
Your autonomy as a human being. Yeah, man. We're going to talk a whole lot more about that next week. I think that's a good segue point. Or I don't know if we'll do it next week. I'm just going to say next segment. Yeah, next segment of relationships. We're also trying to do segments this year. So we're going to bring back more zodiac placements, more relationship stuff. We're also going to do a brief learning to cope segment. What else can we shameless plug? Oh, today, as we record this, is TVK Kalfani Khan's 21st birthday.
Yay!
Happy birthday to Tom.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite human beings on the planet.
He's becoming one of my favorites by association.
Yeah, he's a good kid. All right, so I don't think we have anything else to say. Check out our podcast next week for the inauguration episode, because that is going to happen in a few days. I think 3, right?
Well, it's going to be a few days from when we're recording it, but we're going to post it after.
Yeah. So that we can actually talk about any crazy shit that may or may not happen. If niggas can storm the Capitol on a regular day, who's to say that there might not be some chaos? Anyway.
Right. We'll talk about it all.
We'll talk about it. All right. So follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Kaylyn was here _ I got it right this week.
And my Instagram, Twitter pending. Khairah _ is _ here.
And both of our names are in the episode. So if you can't spell them, that's on you.
And I should probably say my name right. Khairah.
I can't say that yet, but we'll get there. I'm at least gonna honor the name. Anyway, we're off topic, and
with that being said,
Kaylyn was here.
Khairah is here.
And thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.